Hello, good evening. Well, nowadays we have a huge problem with obesity and liver disease. So I want to show all these young people the real problem, the prevalence of these diseases, and what is the research that we do. We know that there are no specific treatments for fatty liver, metabolic associated fatty liver disease, and we need to know that prevention is the only way to revert it or to avoid it, prevent it. So I will tell all these young people what is the nowadays problem and how we can solve it with what we have. Well, I'm Patricia Aspichueta, as just Dr. Sonia Gastambide introduced me. And I'm the principal investigator in the Lipids and Liver group at the University of the Basque Country. So first of all, I want to show you why our research is possible. Here we have all these people. This is my group, okay? And with all these people, we can do things. It's really important in research to have people interested on it and to work together, not just at the University of the Basque Country in our labs, but we need to have a network of people outside the university also. So for us, it's really important to have people that collaborate with us in Biocruces Health Research Institute, in Biodonosti Health Research Institute, or even outside the Basque Country, in Spain or in other countries. Really important for research. So here we are in this picture, the Day of the Woman in Science. This picture is taken the day of the cholangiocarcinoma, which is a rare type of cancer. And here we have some pictures from our students that are having their PhD thesis, a really important day for us, and also celebrations of Christmas. But thanks to all these people, our group works and we are getting really good results. So where are we? Yeah, we have a lab at the University of the Basque Country at the Faculty of Medicine and Nursing. We have also a small laboratory in Maria Goiri building, which is a building that is in the campus of Leioa. It's called the Scientific Campus. And then we have also, some of us are also in Biocruces Health Research Institute, where we collaborate with clinicians, such as Dr. Sonia Gastambide, for example. And we are also part of a bigger network where clinic and basic research gets together and we have projects in common. This is really, really important for us. Okay, so what do? We are the Lipids and Liver Research Group. So as the name says, we are mainly focused on how lipid metabolism is altered in liver diseases. There are several liver diseases, and most of them, or some of them, are chronic liver diseases, and there is no treatment for some of them, okay? So we need to find new ways of treatment, okay? So we work on different liver diseases, and among them, our interest is focused on metabolic-associated fatty liver disease, liver cancer, which are chronic liver disease without treatment, and also we have projects in acute liver damage. For example, we have the intoxication with paracetamol. We all know what's paracetamol, yeah? Halocatil, yes, it's a pain reliever. We use it for fever, and we use it quite oftenly, right? Well, we can get a liver intoxication if we get too much. A liver failure, and after it, a liver transplant is the only way. There's really, really few treatments if we get intoxicated with paracetamol. So we need to find new ways of treatment, how to prevent from liver transplantation when we get intoxicated with paracetamol. So all of these are diseases that we are interested on. And today I'm going to tell you a bit about metabolic associated fatty liver disease, or fatty liver, and liver cancer, and how they are related, okay? So in this picture, you can see here a normal liver, has this reddish color. And then here we can see when the lipids start accumulating in liver, and here it's like a yellowish color. But if the disease progresses, we will start having fibrosis. There are specific kind of cells that start releasing fibers. And it gets to a point where we have cirrhosis and then liver cancer. Well, this may happen in some patients, but not all of the stages. So we need to know where, when, and how this could happen, how, if there is any way to treat it, and where are we, okay? So we have a lot to do. Well, what happens with this liver disease? First, where is the liver? Do you have it clear? Where is the liver? Here, in the right side, right? Here. Okay, this is an obese patient. And there's a high prevalence, a high percentage of patients with obesity have also metabolic associated fatty liver disease or fatty liver, okay? So through a microscope, we'll see something like this. We have these white lipid droplets. This means that the lipid, the fat, is getting stored into the liver. And the liver is not an organ for this. The fat needs to be stored in the adipose tissue, right? So if it stores in liver, something could happen. Obesity is a prevalent problem. You have heard about it, right? We know that we have more cases each day. The prevalence of obesity is increasing really, really fast. And it's estimated that by 2030, around 50% of the population will be obese. Can you imagine that? You have heard about it, right? You have heard how many diseases comes with obesity, right? Well, why do we have obesity? Why? What's the reason? Well, as you know, there is an imbalance between what we have, what we eat, the calorie intake, and what we use, the calorie expenditure. When there is a misbalance between those processes, all that lipid, all that fat will start getting into our body. What problem do we have nowadays? The problem is that the age of obesity is becoming younger and younger. We have a problem with childhood obesity, so that we have longer time to appear other diseases that come with obesity, right? Probably you have heard about this movie, The Whale. It's today in the theater. We need to watch this movie to understand the problem of obesity. Because sometimes obesity is not just because I like eating. It's associated with anxiety and other problems. And we need to be careful and we need to do prevention, okay? Well, what happens with obesity? We know that an obese patient will have a lot of adipose tissue. There's an expansion of adipose tissue. But with it also, other diseases will appear. We have fatty liver, we have cancer, we have cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, dyslipidemia and hypertension. There's a whole picture that is associated to obesity. We are mainly interested in finding how to treat this, in finding new ways of treatment of these diseases that are so related with obesity. The prevalence of fatty liver is getting higher also, because around 70–80% of obese patients suffers from fatty liver. So if the prevalence is going up, also the liver disease is going up. And we get to situations where we have in South America around 70% of overweight or obese patients suffer from liver disease. In Southern Europe, the percentage is a bit lower, but these are lots of people, okay? So we need to do something. The metabolic associated fatty liver disease or fatty liver will begin when we have, imagine, a patient with obesity, okay, and the adipose tissue is storing all that lipid. But we get into a point where the lipid is all everywhere. The adipose tissue gets really inflamed, and the lipids will start being released. And who will take them? Other organs. And among them, which one? The liver. The liver will take all that lipid also. So we have the beginning of the disease with that yellowish liver, and we see through a microscope all the lipid droplets. What happens that in some patients, all that fat in the liver will induce inflammation, hepatitis. You are familiar probably with the virus hepatitis, right? A virus, B virus, C virus hepatitis. Well, fat may also induce hepatitis. And we also know a lot about alcoholism, alcohol, right? You know how an alcoholic, then we'll get maybe a cirrhosis or a fatty liver also. But with this also happens with metabolic diseases where there's no alcohol, okay? So the fat, the accumulation of fat, may induce hepatitis. It's what we call steatohepatitis, hepatitis induced by fat, by lipids. And in some patients, this will progress. Certain cell types will release fibers, inducing a fibrosis, a cirrhosis, and at the end, hepatocellular carcinoma, which is the most prevalent type of liver cancer. Okay, so nowadays the prevalence is getting higher, and we need to find treatments, new ways to treat this disease. What happens in our body? Well, as we mentioned, if we have an expansion in adipose tissue, in obesity, some of these lipids will get all over our body and will get into the liver, but also into the pancreas. And the pancreas is the one who controls the secretion of certain molecules, hormones, that will regulate also how the metabolism in our body goes. Okay? So at the end, everything is related. We need to take a body as a whole. But in metabolic diseases, all of our organs are affected. And inside metabolic diseases, I will also introduce cancer. When we have liver cancer, there's a repercussion in all of our organs. And we need to pay attention not just in the cancer, but also what's happening outside. This is a terrible picture, we could say. How many arrows? Difficult to understand, maybe. But it's really important to see it, because as I just mentioned, all the organs are interrelated with the liver in what is called the whole body metabolic homeostasis. In our body, if we are healthy, we have a balanced metabolism. We eat and we use what we eat. We use all those energy substrates. We use the lipids, we use the sugars, right? And that for what? For energy, right? Well, what happens when there is a metabolic disease, when there is an obesity, when there is a diabetes? Well, the signals that get into the liver from the brain, the thyroids, the intestine, the pancreas are changed, are different. So at the same time, all those different signals will induce a terrible dysregulation in the liver. All these pathways that you see here and that are called metabolic pathways will be altered. And what are metabolic pathways? Well, metabolic pathways are like roads, paths, and these are inside our cells. I mean, for example, if we eat glucose, how can we use that glucose to get energy? Glucose needs to be used and converted into other molecules. Maybe you have heard about ATP, which is the molecule that gives us energy. Well, if you eat glucose, you have the green path to get energy. If you eat a lipid, a fat in chocolate, for example, you will have also an activated lipid metabolism here in green, there are lots of paths that will help to use all that source of energy. We have in each cell of our body the activation of different paths, and this is called metabolism. It's like a roadmap, right? Where all those metabolites are circulating through the roads at the end to get from sugar to energy, from a lipid, when we eat fat, to get energy, from amino acid to a protein for the muscle, for example. So there are really roads that are really ordinated and coordinated roads. But what happens when there is a disease, when there's obesity, when we have all that lipid stored? There's an accident. Well, all that those roads get mixed up. Okay? So if there is an accident in one of those roads, this will have percussion and will have also something to do with other roads. So there is a total metabolic dysregulation in our body. Okay? So, as a consequence, what happens? Lipid gets into the liver. The liver is not the organ to store all that lipid. Okay? The lipid should be in the adipose tissue. What happens how can this lipid get there? What are the roads that tells us to store that lipid or to use that lipids? Which are the roads that are disturbed, that are altered? And this is one of the things that we study in our group, is to know how the lipid will start getting accumulated in the liver. For this, we need to know exactly which road is disturbed, it's altered. So, we know that when we eat a lot of fat, for example, all those lipids will go straight away to the liver. Okay? Also, if there's an obesity, if there's a diabetes, the adipose tissue is inflamed, some lipids will come also from that adipose tissue. Oof. If I move, maybe. Sugar, glucose, what happens? Well, if we eat all that junk food, we also get a lot of glucose, right? And this glucose will also affect the lipid metabolism. We know that, and you know probably, that if you eat sugar, if you eat glucose, that will be the first energy source to be used to get energy, right? But if you eat sugar, glucose, and you also eat a lot of fat, what will happen? You will store all that fat in your adipose tissue because you are using glucose, right? So that you will gain weight, right? So if you eat glucose, but you don't eat fat, you will get the energy source. But if you get them together, then we have a problem here. So, in obesity, all these roads that regulate the uptake of lipids, the synthesis of lipids, will go up. And what happens with those roads that regulate the elimination of those lipids? Well, the roads that eliminate those lipids won't be enough to compensate all the lipids that are coming. We need to think that a patient with obesity eats more than what it's supposed to eat, right? It's more unhealthy food also, right? So there's a discompensation between what's getting into the liver and what gets out the liver, so that the disease progresses. What happens nowadays with treatment? Well, there's no specific treatment for liver diseases, for fatty liver. There's no specific treatment, and there are lots of clinical trials going on. Do you know what a clinical trial is? Have you ever heard about it? No? No? Well, simple, really simple. When we have a new molecule, Imagine we discover a new molecule to use to treat a disease. Imagine we discover in our lab a new molecule. Do you think we can give it straight to people? What do you think? No. No, it's really dangerous. We need to prove that it's safe, right? That we have the molecule and we don't have side effects and we get a result there. Yes? So, till a molecule is discovered, till the molecule is used to treat a disease, there are several years over there. First of all, it needs to be tried out in a group of animal models to check if it really treats the disease and that side effects won't appear in the animal models. This is why it's so important research with animal models. Then we will go to a small group of patients or normal individuals, maybe, before treating to see if there is any side effects. Then we will go to another group of patients, a small one, then a bigger one, okay, till the end of that. And everything that happens is reported. Do we get an effect? Do we get side effects? So at the end, we need to see that there is an effect with not important side effects, or maybe we have to measure if it's convenient or not. Well, here for fatty liver, we have lots of clinical trials going on. Nowadays, pharmaceuticals are crazy about this because it's a really prevalent disease with no treatment. So they are all running, trying to find new drugs, but till the moment, there is no one that works. And they don't work because each patient is different. And the disease, the metabolic, the fatty liver, it's totally different, well, or really different from a group of patients and another one. We need more personalized medicine, okay? We need to know exactly what happens to a group of patients. So till now, no treatments. What is the only way to treat? Well, lifestyle intervention. We need to change our habits. We need to prevent the disease. But what happens that there is a low adherence, usually. We need prevention. And how do we do prevention? We do prevention through sports, exercise, really, really important, and also through our diet. This is really, really important also. We are lucky to have the Mediterranean diet here. In the States, if you go over there, it's really difficult to eat healthy. Really, really difficult and really expensive. But this is not happening here. So it's in our hands to get good habits and to prevent this. So in our lab, our expertise is in lipid metabolism, and liver diseases. So we've been several years working on how can we help. Is there something we can do? Let's look for new targets of treatment. Let's try to develop something that really works in the reversion of this disease. So we focused on this part of the metabolism. We are really, we have been for years really interested in methionine metabolism. What's methionine? Have you heard about methionine in your life? Methionine is an amino acid. You know that the amino acids are part of proteins? That we eat proteins because we need those amino acids, and then in our body they will be used to synthesize another proteins, right? We need to eat protein. Well, the methionine metabolism, that means how from methionine several roads activate in our liver to get energy and to get other molecules that are required for our functions. For example, SAMe, here in red. S-adenosylmethionine, SAMe. What happens in our liver when we are obese? All this methionine metabolism is altered also. And it was reported before. Imagine when we get to study something new, a project, what we do first is to read articles. What has been reported? What other people in other labs have found, right? And so we found that in obesity, this pathway is increased. There is a more synthesis of SAMI, okay? Also, we know that this process is really important in liver. And also we know for methionine to be used for the synthesis of SAMI, this enzyme, do you know what's an enzyme? Enzyme, it's this molecule, MAT, that uses, it's part of those roads to use compounds. And the enzyme, what makes is to convert one compound into another, okay? So this enzyme is controlled by a gene. You know what a gene is? You know how in our bodies we have the DNA, and how in the DNA we have different genes, and how because of each gene we can have different features in our body, right? Each gene will, from a gene, we can get a protein in our body. A protein is an enzyme. It's the one who will convert this reaction, okay? So we started working on this, and we found that someone in the States reported that dietary restriction of methionine, this is when we don't eat methionine in our diet, the obese phenotype will revert. In animal models, if you take off the methionine from the diet, all those obese mice will get thin, okay? And with it, other diseases will disappear. So we thought, well, in our lab, we are able to modify it genetically. We can take off a gene in a mouse, and we can see if happens the same as here. So, as part of the PhD thesis of this person that was with us like 5 years in our lab, Diego, and now he's at Yale University doing a postdoc, with him, we discovered something really beautiful. And I'm going to tell you the story, okay? This is how, from the beginning till the end, we propose a project and we get to good results. This is something that is published for everyone, and then a pharmaceutical, if it's interested on it, will develop the drug. We have also a patent on this, because the results we got were wonderful. So what did we do? Our hypothesis was, if we don't use methionine, okay, we might be able to make the obese mice, because we always need a mouse model to do our experiments, maybe we'll be able to make them lose weight, and with it maybe also the liver disease will disappear, okay? So we got together in our lab. We have all of our experiments are pretty big, so we need a lot of people to be involved in them, and we work a lot together. So we got together, we planned the experiments, and for them we used mice, okay? So for our research, it's really important to develop animal models of liver disease, animal models of cancer, and animal models of well, what we are studying, because otherwise we don't have a way to know if the treatments will be useful or not, right? So we induced two kinds of obesity. One of them was with a high-fat diet. We fed the animals a high-fat diet, and the other one was genetically obese. We bought these mice that were fat already. So two kinds of obesity. Then what did we do? There's this pharmaceutical in California that they designed like really short molecules where with them, if you inject them, we are able to silence, to inhibit one gene. It's like, have you heard what's genetic therapy, or, well, with the COVID vaccination, with the COVID, you know that some of them were a piece of RNA that were injected, right? Well, here it's kind of something like that. We injected a piece of DNA in this case, and so that we, instead of producing a protein, we inhibit a protein, okay? So we gave them, the mice, first of all, in the half-fat diet-induced obesity, we induced obesity, and in the 6th week of half-fat diet, we started injecting the drug once a week, okay? And then in the genetically obese mice, the same, once a week, the drug. And what we found was wonderful. Imagine, let me explain you just this. Here we have the mice, they all weight the same, and we have 3 different groups. This is how we do it, okay? We have the black one here, that is the one that has the half-fat diet. So it's gaining a lot of weight, as you can see, right? It's getting obese. Then we have a control group that is eating a normal diet. They weigh not a lot of weight, right? And then we have the treated group here in blue. And what do we see? They gain weight till the moment we start doing the injections. We inject them once per week. And what do we see? From the first injection, first of all, the weight will stabilize, but then, wow, there's a huge drop in body weight till they get a normal weight. Obesity disappears completely. Just inhibiting one gene from the liver, we are able to get rid of the obesity. So this was amazing. When we saw it, we repeated this experiment several times because we couldn't believe it. It's really amazing to see how a really fat mouse in just 4 weeks will get normal, right? But we didn't know if together with all this reversion of obesity, we will get a normal liver, we will get a normal glucose levels, we will get a downregulation or a decrease of serum lipids. We didn't know that. So we started working on, first of all, let's see what we can see with this body weight loss, okay? Let's see if other diseases have disappeared also. Well, these graphs tells us about what is called insulin resistance, okay? And we saw, in general terms, that in both animal models, it disappeared also. Then we measured lipids in blood, and we found that the levels were down again. And since we know that when we eat lipids, those lipids will be spread through our body, if we are giving the animal a half-fat diet, where is that lipid going? If it gets really thin, there must be a way that there's an increased consumption of that fat. What's going on there? So we have a way to measure this in our lab. What we do is we radio level a molecule of lipid. This is, we take radioactivity and we link it to a molecule and we give it through oral garbage. Here we have the mouse, and here's how we give it. Here in this syringa, we will have the lipid that it's leveled with radioactivity. What does the radioactivity give us? The radioactivity tells us where does that lipid go. It's like a mark, okay? So we can follow it. So we sacrificed the mice. Well, we did several measurements, and we found here, and we took the different tissues to know where the radioactivity was. Here in blue are the animals that have been treated to inhibit that gene. What did we find? Here we have liver. We took liver. We took white adipose tissue. We took brown adipose tissue. I will show you now what is it. Muscle and heart. And we found that most of the lipid was going to the brown adipose tissue. This was really neat and interesting because we were just inhibiting one gene in liver, but the effect was mainly in the brown adipose tissue. And how can this happen? So the white adipose tissue, as you know, is the one that probably you are familiar with, right? The white adipose tissue is the one that it's just an energy storage organ. It has also endocrine functions, and we know it's there that there are more functions related to the white adipose tissue. But it's clear what it, well, or at least it's familiar what it does, right? But probably you know less about the brown adipose tissue. Do you know something? Have you heard about the brown adipose tissue? No? Well, the brown adipose tissue protects our body from cold. Thermogenesis, the production of heat, will take place in the brown adipose tissue. What happens in the adult? In the adult, we have few brown adipose tissue. We also call it bad. Really few adipose tissue. But in the newborn or in the mouse, there is more adipose tissue, more brown adipose tissue, more bad. In the mouse, the brown adipose tissue is here, and this protects them from cold. So we found that since all the lipids go to the brown adipose tissue, and the brown adipose tissue is where the thermogenesis, the production of heat, happens, for the production of heat we need energy, right? Do you see this? So the hypothesis was that probably the fat that they were eating and going to the brown adipose tissue was used to produce energy, to produce heat. So we started working on this, and we got together with another group in Galicia, which are really into the function of brown adipose tissue, because we are experts in liver, and this was totally new for us, like for you. And we measured the temperature of the brown adipose tissue with these cameras, and you see that the ones that are treated here are really red here. This means that there's a lot of thermogenesis. And then they put the animals in metabolic cages, and they measure the expenditure of energy, and they found that they really have a high expenditure of energy, usage of this energy. And this is what I was telling you, how the newborn has a lot of brown adipose tissue, like the mouse, but not in the adult. Well, so if we activate the brown adipose tissue, we get body weight loss. Okay, so we get slim, we decrease our lipid levels in serum, we remove or get rid of the insulin resistance. So this could be a target of treatment. Let's activate the brown adipose tissue. But what happens in the adult? In the adult, there is really few small pieces of brown adipose tissue through our body. So there are lots of groups of research that are working on this, trying to see how we could activate the brown adipose tissue in the adult to activate metabolism and to get rid of all that fat, for example. We got more results about this, and finally we confirmed that there was an oxidation in this, but we were curious about the liver. At the end, we wanted to treat the liver disease, and in those mouse models we induced obesity, and we said liver disease also. So we wanted to know, okay, we are inhibiting a gene in the liver, we are getting thin or lean
mice, and they seem healthy. Let's see what happens in the liver. Do we get rid of all that grease? And how do we measure? Here we have all those red lipid droplets. What we do is we take the liver, we do slices, and then we stain the lipids with that red color. And what do we see? That when we treat animals and we get rid of that gene, all that grease disappears. Look at the livers. This is a mouse liver. And when there's liver disease, fatty liver disease, they are bigger, they are kind of with a whitish color, but when they are normal. So when we opened the animal and we saw this, we were amazed. It was amazing. And then we had to prove it through the slice and to do it all the stain. So the inhibition of this gene reverted obesity, reverted insulin resistance, reverted the hypertriglyceridemia or dyslipemia, and also the liver disease. So we did plenty of experiments, and we wanted to know what molecule could be the one in charge of this, because we were targeting a gene specifically in liver. How do we get an effect in brown adipose tissue if we are going to the liver? This shows us how all our metabolism in the body is related. So we found a molecule that it's called FGF21, and through experiments with mice and using another mice that were knocked out, that did not have this protein in the liver, we could demonstrate that in fact it was the liver, the one that released this molecule, and this molecule through the blood got into the brown adipose tissue and activated the brown adipose tissue to burn all that fat. Do you understand? So all these experiments tells us how FGF21 is involved in that phenotype. At the end, when of course, when we found all these, we thought, wow, this is amazing. We need everyone to know about this. So we put our results in this article. It's a Nature Communications journal, and they are really strict when they review your results. And they made us do plenty of experiments with different animal models, and they wanted to know more about the mechanisms. So from the phenotype that I'm telling you, since the day we found that obesity reverted, we said the diseases that were associated, and then we found that it was FGF21, till the day that it was published, it was like 2 years more. So after 5 years of doing experiments and getting those results, we sent them, and then there were another 2 years explaining why FGF21 was secreted by the liver, because we inhibited the MAT1A gene. So it took us another 2 years to find that this molecule, NRF2, was the one that was mediated from MAT1A deletion to the FGF21 secretion. We did plenty of experiments, and at the end, this is what we got, how the release of FGF21 in those livers that was induced by the silencing, inhibiting that MAT1A gene, was released to the blood, and once in the blood, it could circulate till the brown adipose tissue, also to the white adipose tissue, where oxidation of those lipids will take place to induce more thermogenesis, so that it worked like taking all our lipids from our body. Okay? So at the end, this was the published paper that we got. As you see here, we are lots of co-authors. This is because it's a really long story that today I made it really, really short. And lots of collaborators, experts in adipose tissue, experts in of course, liver and in metabolism. So lots of scientists together to find out that inhibiting this one gene in the liver, we could get a whole body metabolic homeostasis, restoring obesity, insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, and fatty liver. So this is the people who was involved. There are several groups that we work with, and as I told you, it's really important, the cooperation, the collaboration with all these people. So I'm sure that now you'll be able to answer the question, right? I've been here. What do you think? Is there a treatment or just prevention? Difficult. First of all, what do we know? We know that if you lose 10% of the body weight, if you lose 10% of the body weight per year, liver disease will go ahead reverting. You can recover till you have fibrosis. Or when you have fibrosis and cirrhosis, you need to be really, really strict not to make it progress. But if you lose per year 10% of your body weight, your liver will be happy. So do research. That's my recommendation. Okay. Do you have questions? So is someone here interested in research? Have you ever think on doing research? You?
Okay.
And what kind of research would you like to do? Would you like to do it as a clinician, or do you want to do more biology, biochemistry?
Biology.
Biology.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like genes, or do you know what you like so far?
Yeah, but like a little bit only.
There?
A little bit, like biology, chemistry.
And chemistry. So probably biochemistry.
Yeah.
You will like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good career to do research.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Someone else? No? You don't know what to do yet? No?
So, Patricia, are you planning to work in another animal model different from mice?
Well, so far we are happy with mice because the thing about mice is that they are small. You can have plenty in a cage, but we are really strict. Also, I need to say, I've been in an ethical committee, and we don't do a procedure without getting the authorization. This is really important. With other diseases, maybe you can do more into cellular models. You have cultures, you have in a dish your cells, and you can do your trials there. But with metabolism, you have a whole body complex network that needs to be studied. So it's difficult to see what model will resemble a bit the human disease. Sometimes it depends what you study. Of course, the mice is not useful, or you need to be careful in the interpretation of the results. This is the case for atherosclerosis, for example. The mice has a different profile, and you have to change the mice into another profile. You have to move molecules to get atherosclerosis. So you need to know with what you are working. And of course, it's really important to have also collaborations with clinicians for two important things. One is that for us, it doesn't make sense to do research in something that we don't know if it's interest from a clinician point of view. So if you get in contact with people in clinic, you will see what are the real problems. This is really important, the number one. And number two, we need to work together. I mean, clinic and basic research needs to be done together because we learn one from the other. And this is really important. I think that we are doing in Spain better than in other countries.
Really?
Yes, yeah. I think that with the fever and all these and all the health institutes and yeah. For example, I was the other day with this researcher from Portugal, and he was telling me that there's no way. I mean, people in clinics or it's not into getting together that much. So I think that we are working in the right direction in this sense, little by little.
Yeah.
But
So
yes.
we are far from getting a drug
Yeah.
to treat the problem.
Well, the thing here is that today I was with these researchers from the United States that came to our lab, and he's also a clinician expert in liver disease, and we were talking, and he told me there's no way. I mean, we need to classify patients. We need to know a little more about them. I think the pharmaceuticals want to go really fast, and they are trying to do clinical trials for everyone, or just let's combine drugs and this is like wait, we need to understand this disease a bit better. And in metabolic associated fatty liver disease, the problem has been that till date, we have considered just the disease from a histological point of view. If there was steatosis plus inflammation, what degree of inflammation. And now we know that we need to have a more open view and take the patients for the origin or maybe the type of metabolic disease that they have and do a subphenotyping the patients so that we can do more a classification through the beginning. And that's why the term NAFLD has changed to MAFLD. Because in NAFLD there was like more an histological determination. There is fat, there is fibrosis, and there was this stage of NAFL, NAS. But now with MAFLD they are trying to give more relevance to the combination of genetic variants with metabolic diseases, with the different subtypes, and we don't have, and just like the focus is on NASH. That's it. Like different roads to get to NASH. So let's see if it works a bit better.
So anybody wants to make a question?
And also for cancer, you know that we are in the week of cancer, right? That today is the day of cancer worldwide. Well, this disease is totally related with liver cancer. And it happens the same. There are no specific drugs that really function in liver cancer. So at the end, we need to classify patients also and go to a more personalized medicine. And to know in the case of metabolic disease, the fatty liver disease, how the pathway that the patient has gone through to get to the cancer will tell us a lot about what kind of drug or combination of drugs will function, because sometimes also maybe drugs that are commercial could be used in co-treatment with chemotherapy, for example. Drugs that are being used for metabolic diseases. And this is what we want to see if in our models this works, depending on the metabolic disturbances and alterations. Yeah.
No questions? Too complicated?
Well, at least did you get the whole sense of the thing? I mean, I of course, I was not thinking that you were going to understand every molecule. It's not the purpose, but the purpose was for me, to start listening to what's what we do, to start listening what are the problems in health nowadays, because here we had a huge problem that needs to be resolved, and we need help. So we need researchers for this.
The solution is to weight loss.
Yeah, so far, yeah, but to eat healthy also. I mean, yeah, we need to eat. Those diets that are like keto diets, don't do them. They're not good for your liver. That are also really into everyone's You probably have heard about that, right? The keto diet now, all those hours without eating, intermittent fasting. Yeah. That needs to be done really carefully and also with a person that controls and knows about it, because otherwise you can get huge problems from it.
But everything starts in obesity, so we have to prevent obesity, because preventing obesity, we are preventing diabetes, lipid disorders, hypertension, etc. So we have to try to prevent obesity. I think that's very important for all of us.
Yeah.
And we have to eat in a very health style. Well, Patricia said before that we are happy because we follow the Mediterranean diet.
We are lucky to have. Lucky to have.
Yeah,
because
but I'm not so sure
yeah, I'm not so sure
that we
are following it.
Are following that, yes.
So Mediterranean diet, it's important.
There's a question there.
And how have you reached to making these investigations? I mean, what was your first? What did you imagine yourself doing in the future as a kid?
When did I saw myself as a researcher?
Yes.
Well, not that soon. Don't worry. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to study something like biology or pharmacy or medicine, because I always liked biology. It's what I loved. And I was always, at the end, like I was not sure to do medicine or pharmacy. And I was going to start in med school, but at the last moment I changed my priorities. And I thought I'm going to study pharmacy. Then during pharmacy studies, I had lots of doubts. And I was wondering myself, why didn't I go to med school? And I always had that struggle. But then you realize that in your life, don't worry that much for what you choose and not studying the right thing, because you go and you follow your field and you go for what you want. When I was done with pharmacy, I had to try the three things that a person who studied pharmacy do, and that was being in a pharmacy, the hospitalary pharmacy, and research. Those was the three things. So nothing was clear at the end of my pharmacy studies. So I started the three things at the same time. I did my practices in the Galdakos hospital, and I did not like that at all. So out. Then I started doing at the same time research at the university, and during the nights I started working in a pharmacy. And I did not like the pharmacy at all. So I like research a lot. So I started doing research in pharma, which was with some molecules and how they were metabolized. And then there was this project in another lab, which was by the lab I was, that it was with statins, with our drugs that are used to get down the levels of cholesterol in our blood. And there was this project with statins and metabolism of cholesterol. So I thought, this is nice. So I went to that lab and told them, I would like to work here. Is there any possibility for me? And I knew that it was going to be for free, but I just wanted to learn. And I got into that lab and I really like it. I thought, I think this is what I want. And so it was not, you don't have to get worried if by that age, how old are you? 15, 16 years old. Well, things are not that clear. It's not possible. You can say, I don't like this, or I don't like that. But to know exactly what you want, that's to be lucky. If you have an idea, like I like this and I want to do this, that's to be really lucky. But you need to go little by little. You discard this and you go ahead. And at the end, if you fight, you will get what you want. I mean, study what you want or what you think might be okay, but at the end you do what you do. I mean, you go, even if you study medicine and you don't like to be with the patients or whatever, you will look for what you like. So don't worry that much about choosing right or not, because that's something that might make you go crazy, right?
Okay. If there's no more question, we can finish
Okay.
because it is Friday.
Yes. Okay,
So
thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day.